Personal development has promised transformation, but mostly it's produced better consumers. We've optimized everything from our sleep to our steps to our focus to even trying to optimize our nervous systems. But our rates of anxiety, burnout, overwhelm, loneliness, and the absolutely ridiculously messed up systems that we are living within keep on getting worse. Often it feels as if the more we try to improve ourselves, the further we drift from actually feeling alive and contributing meaningfully to the transformation of the world that so many of us know is possible. My name is Ganga Devi, and I am a living systems theorist and regenerative practitioner. I study how all living systems, from our bodies to our civilizations to our friendship groups to our families to the entire planet itself, all follow the same patterns of what makes a system thrive. Understanding how meaningful transformation happens within one level of the system can actually help us create meaningful transformation at larger scales. I am absolutely obsessed with this, but it requires us to actually look at the whole system. I have come to see from being up close and personal in the self-help and spiritual and wellness worlds my entire life that the way that we're approaching this does not reflect how living systems truly transform, actually thrive, actually grow, actually evolve. So what I'm going to share with you today isn't a rejection of personal development. It is, though, perhaps an evolution of it to help it be more evolutionary. I am absolutely not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, especially on this topic, because we really do need to work on ourselves. Who we are inside of ourselves is the field from which we are able to affect change. Some people go from one end of the spectrum to the other, of a total focus on internal personal mindset development or a total focus on external level systems change. I reject that false binary because, as I'll share in the videos to come, we are multidimensional. We are in relationship with all of the different levels and systems that we are nested within. What I am very passionate about is an approach to how we work with ourselves that affects systemic change and all of the systems we belong to. So before we get into all of that, let's take a look at how we got where we are today. At the dawn of the 1900s, the world was reorganizing itself around the factory. Efficiency was the highest virtue. Frederick Winslow Taylor's scientific management broke human labor into measurable motions. Every gesture was timed, every output was tracked. The metaphor of the age was the machine. People became units of productivity. Good character meant discipline, punctuality, and control. Does that sound familiar for your own life and maybe messages that you received in childhood? When the first self-help improvement books appeared, including Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, they simply carried this logic inside of the psyche. Success, optimization, efficiency, they now applied to our inner world, the soul. We inherited the idea that a good person is an efficient person, that the purpose of life is to produce more, do more, earn more. The body became a tool to manage, and the mind was a machine to optimize. Now, I am not saying to throw out the really helpful, insightful, and instructive elements of these kinds of works. In fact, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz is one of the core texts that I base a lot of my work on. However, we have to understand the origins and the pitfalls of these things in order to decide what we want to harvest and take with us into the future, and what we want to let go and let compost and let decompose and turn into the fertile soil of the world that we want to plant next. So then, after World War II, psychology shifted from a focus of collective duty to personal adjustment. The dream was stability, home ownership, normalcy. Therapy and education focused on helping people fit into that version of the American dream. Behaviorism taught that we're driven by stimulus and response. If you can condition the behavior, you can control a person. Later, the human potential movement invited us to self-actualize, which is beautiful language and has beautiful intentions and has produced incredible bodies of work. But the focus was still on the individual self as the unit of change. Even spirituality became a solo project. If you meditate harder, you manifest better, you heal faster. And instead of asking what kind of a world makes so many people anxious or numb, or how we carry the patterns of what is so profoundly sick in this world, we built entire industries to help individuals adjust to the unlivable. As Jiddu Krishnamurti has famously said, it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Yet, here we are. And by the 1980s, the market absorbed everything. Neoliberal economics told us that you are your own brand. Again, sound familiar? Success and failures became moral verdicts. And wellness, coaching, and manifestation culture began to turn our healing into content. We have been turning self-actualization into self-marketing for a very long time now. And growth has become something that you can purchase, post, and perform, rather than something that happens really deeply and profoundly within you that then affects the entire world that you live within. Perhaps the most painful aspect of all of this is the way that we pathologize the feelings that could really actually reconnect us. When you feel despair about the state of the world, it's called depression. When you rage at injustice, people will say that you need anger management. When you grieve for forests and oceans, there's now the term eco-anxiety. But all of these are pathologized into disorders, rather than intelligent signals from the larger body that we belong to. Modern mental health systems often treat our sensitivity to collective suffering as an illness to suppress, when in living systems terms, those sensations are feedback, messages from the greater organism saying something's out of balance. The planet is speaking through our nervous systems, and we've been taught to call it pathology. So, what if our approach to personal development was not individual repair of something broken within us, but systemic restoration? If we consider ourselves to be cells in the body of life, when one cell heals, the tissue that it belongs to also reorganizes. Similarly, when the tissue is becoming healthier, the individual cells are able to heal. When one person shifts, the culture can learn. And when we shift things in the culture, we as individuals can be transformed. So I just want us to take a moment to imagine if personal development became a force for collective regeneration, for the anchoring of a regenerative paradigm in the collective. If every breakthrough and personal transformation moment that you experience nourished not only yourself, but your relationships with your loved ones, your family, your community, your bioregion, and ultimately the earth. We are alive and we belong to the family of life. So what if we approached this work that way? Over the next couple of episodes, I'm going to be exploring how living systems thinking reshapes everything we call growth, from our physiology to our civilization. If this resonates, stay with me, subscribe, and share this with anyone that you think might resonate as well. Together, let's evolve how we evolve.